So this is where the bees.
He has his apiary a little farther down
Oh,
this way.
okay.
Yeah, but then he stores all his materials here for the apiary. But he was having some, he had issues with swarming. There was a colony that swarmed off because of the amount of rain, I think. You know, we've had all of this rain, and then the bees have a difficult time getting nectar when it's raining. So and if we do, and even if you do supplemental feeding, how much can you do? Then they swarm off.
They have to find a drier area.
So the rain has to do with the collection of food.
Oh, they
Most
are
insects.
intrinsically tied, because if it rains a lot, the rain washes off the nectar from the flowers.
Okay.
It washes off the pollen, so then the bees have a harder time collecting those things. So it's always best, and that is why your honey flow is, at least here in Toledo, is during the month of March, April, because then you expect that in December it's kind of gets drier. January gets a little drier. February, so then the bees are actively foraging out there, are able to bring all of this material and convert it to honey. In March, you can harvest. Similarly, you still have April and May, where there's a lot of flowering. There isn't much rain, so they can collect all of the nectar and the pollen, and so you can harvest in May. And then there is the possibility to harvest a little bit in August as well, depending on if you have this dry season. But for now, most of the time, I don't see that happening anymore, because you cannot, you have too much rain. Isn't that the case, Isidoro?
Yep.
Yeah.
Bees, working with bees is kind of a little bit, like we said, climate change. You have to really know what is your climate change. And I'm seeing now, because I'm seeing my bees. I have apiary, which is I have to build a little camp like this for them to survive. As a beekeepers, you need to know your bees if it doesn't want to swarm. If the bees swarm, it will hurt you, because it will not be easier to catch those bees.
Yeah.
So now what I'm doing 2 weeks ago, when I went to a vacation, I went to my apiary, and my bees, I see my bees is like almost into swarming. So I quickly changed my mind. I said I have to build a little shed just to protect them not to swarm away. And that's what I did. And then from there on, I see my bees slow down on swarming. And now, a lot of rain, they are in dry. So they're like in and out like that.
Okay, so you want to put something like this?
Yes.
Yes, you want to put up something over your colony, or over your hive, to not have to have that, because what happens is that in that, and I'm probably preaching to choir here, because you know about bees, I think. In that colony, there is what you call controlled temperature, and so they continuously have to be fanning to be able to control that temperature. Now, if it is under the elements, that means that temperature regulation is a lot harder. However, if you're able to put a shed over it, some kind of roof over it, then you get those bees to work less. And that is the whole idea here. It's about making little changes, little adaptations to those realities that are out in the field. So so they have to be working harder, because the temperature in the colony is harder to regulate. Then build a little shed so that there is less work from the bees, so they can dedicate more time at surviving. Remember, they are in this phase where they have to be surviving for the next season.
Have you ever thought of making a border of, like, besides having a structure over them, but a border of flowering plants, so that they don't have to go too much?
Well, yes, there's some farmers that are working with, they do that. But again, if you have up to like 40 to 50,000 for honey, and you have $20 or $10, those little flowers what you put there beside, those not enough for
be
it.
gone.
They'll be gone like that. Because that's why she do it. I see that is